Vivian, how many years have you been in Waterford? I know you were born here, so you've been here the whole time?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yeah. 86.
86 years?
Yeah. I worked Molten Snack Shop, so I didn't have any meals with them.
You what? You worked?
Molten Snack Shop.
Oh, Molten
Yeah,
Snack Shop?
up on Main Street.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So you ate all your meals there that you didn't eat at school?
that's right. Yeah, I didn't eat any at school
Yeah.
during high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I was supposed to get just 2 meals from Molten's. After I'd been there for a little, because I worked for them. And after I'd been there for not even a week, Mr. Molten says, "You can have your 3rd meal here too if you want." They were awful good to me. There was man and his wife, Ma and Pa Molten.
When you were first married, where did you live? Did you live
We
on a farm?
had an apartment for a short time. Then my father died we were married in September. My father died in February, and we moved up to the farm for my husband to work with my brother.
So your brother was the one that had to take over the farm?
Yes. Yeah. And then in 52, we bought a house down near Passumpsic, but it was still in Waterford on Route 5. And Russ was at that point working the corner garage for Pat's department. So,
And the corner garage was where?
the corner garage where off in Hastings Hill and Railroad Street. Can't remember who owns it now. It's gone. Oh, it went through a slew of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did your mother work off the farm? Or
No, she just did the meals and
meals
kept the house.
raising the family?
Yeah.
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 Did you and your husband participate in like town government or
Russell was selectman for 12 years.
12 years?
Yeah. And I helped with the school and the PTA.
What was it like for him to be in politics?
It was okay until the state stepped in. They could do what needed to be done. And Russ finally, he said after the last few years, he said, "I can't do any more."
Did you get a lot of phone calls like at night?
No, he didn't.
Really?
No, not too bad. More from the garage than he did.
Oh.
Some of the loggers would break down, they'd call and needed parts.
So he was a mechanic for.
He
Most
could
of
be,
his life?
but he was took care of the parts department for the mechanics. He was there, I don't know, he went through about 30 bosses. Because that garage changed hands a lot.
And where
He
was
went in 46, and I think it was 85 that when Wayne Ford took over. Gave him 2-hour notice and said, "That's it." Oh, it was, and he was 55. Oh boy, that was hard. And he had all these kids, because we had 3 foster children. His brother had died, and the mother died earlier, so we took the 3 kids, and it was quite a blow. He didn't even know what was going to happen.
After Russell lost his job, how did you guys manage?
Well, Mr. Warren had a garage on Warren's Flat. I think it's where Webb is now, Webb. And so he called Russ right up. He says, "I need a man." He says, "And I know you're good." He says, "Will you come and help?" And so Russ did. And but Tap and Die was Northeast Tool was a spin-off from Tappan Dye, and they were looking for help, so Russ decided he'd go there where he could have more, get a little pension and stuff. And so he did. He gave his notice, and he said, he says, I don't want to lose you. And he offered to set up an account for him, but Russ said no, he thought he better not. And it wasn't too long after that he went under, or I don't know, he just got sick of working, and he was an older man. So I think his name was Warren, his last name. Russ did work from Mr. Warren and his two boys. That was at the Ford garage.
Is that earlier?
Yeah, that was earlier, yeah, before he got. And I asked Mr. Warren one time, I said, would Russell do something that would make Wayne can him? And he said no. He says Russell would not do a thing. He'd just do what he was supposed to do, but it was money. He didn't want to pay him what he was getting, and he had a car to drive. I had a demo, and he didn't. So he called me at 3. He had said at noon, don't wait supper, you feed the kids, and because I'm going to take inventory. About 3 o'clock, phone rang, it was Russ, and he said, pick me up at 5. I says, what? Because he had a truck to pick up. And yeah, he said, you pick me up at 5. And I said, you haven't been canned, have you? Joking. He said, yes. I still didn't believe it until I picked him up, and he come out with his toolbox that he had, his personal things. Look on his face was, yeah. But we got through it.
How long was he at, was it Northeast Tools?
15 years, yeah, because he got a little pension. Which,
Well, that's good.
yeah, so I get a little pension now.
So you said earlier that you and Russell had gone to work at the farm or gone to live on the farm and be there?
Yeah, we were there 2 times. The first time was just Russ and I. I can't remember why I guess Glenn thought he could handle it by himself. And the herd wasn't as big at that time. So that's when Russ went to the corner garage. Then, when Ted and Kathy were small, they were born in 52 and 54. And Glenn wanted us to come back and try, and so we did, but there wasn't enough money coming in for both families.
Yeah.
So that's when we decided to buy the house in Passumpsic. Yeah, well, it's not in Passumpsic, it's in Waterford, but
You must have quite a few acres of farmland.
I think there was 500
500
in all,
acres.
yeah.
Because did anybody do any logging?
They-
Forestry?
They did. I think before Grandpa bought it, there was a logging company that over by back of Stiles Pond, they had logged that. And because somehow they were connected in the deed. And then my folks bought that property. And I don't know, they must have logged off from the first part of the property, because I've got pictures of the logging, and that was about the time they decided to put a sawmill in, and it was during the Depression, and it worked good because people around would bring their logs, and Uncle Carl, he's very, very talented with his machinery, didn't like cattle, so he wouldn't farm that way, but he took care of the machinery. And the horses, when they had horses, he loved horses. So that worked out pretty well.
Did they use the sawmill for anything else?
Make cider.
All right.
And of course, some of it, that my mom would say, I'm having my vinegar. If you don't have your cider. Yeah.
So did you have an apple orchard?
They just got wild apples all over where there was trees. Yeah. Some years were good and some weren't.
Did you do any of that?
No, I used to watch. Yeah. I was pretty young at that point.
Did they do any maple sugaring?
Oh, that kept them going during the Depression. Yeah. They had a big sugar orchard. And Uncle Carl there again, he would drive the horses, and brother Glenn would gather, and my father would boil. And I remember one time I was going in front of the horses, coming down the road, Slate Ledge Road, and it was quite a hill, and I slipped and I fell right in front of those. I looked up, and there that big old white horse stood, and I thought, oh my goodness. Uncle Cal, yeah. And Uncle Cal just pulled back and said, whoa. They stopped just like that. Yeah.
When did you have a car or a truck then on the farm?
I can't remember going anywhere with horses.
Oh.
So, and that's another thing. Uncle Cal was so mechanical that if anything new came out, yeah. And my father had a motorcycle. And I've got a picture of him, and my mother wrote on it, she wasn't in it, Maud Gray. I don't know who Maud was, but somebody he was going with, apparently. And so I remember going to school with a car, and Uncle Cal, the town paid him to take the kids in our area to school.
Mm-hmm. So, what about gasoline in those days?
They had their own gasoline pump. Yeah.
Whoa.
That's another thing. My uncle was very, very good at, anything come out, he had it. And during the Depression, it worked good because their farm machinery, there was machinery for farming, so they were not Depression so much as the war. Gasoline was rationed, but we always had plenty. We could use it we only went down once a week, got groceries.
Big trucks come and bring the gasoline to your
Yep.
tank?
Yeah, it was a big tank. It was up in the field. I don't know where it is now, I guess. But back in the old days, they didn't think about leaks and stuff.
Did they ever quarry slate from?
Oh, that's another thing. They quarried slate.
Oh.
Yeah. So we never was during the Depression like some people, because we had the slate and the sugaring. I remember when maple syrup went from $2 a gallon to $3, and my father was ecstatic. Oh, he was so happy. Oh, that was really.
So the farm is different now in that the road, Slate Ledge Road.
Yes.
And you also had a barn and a shed.
Yes,
That burned.
that connected to the house. There again, if the whole place would have gone, if it hadn't been for the fire hoses, and we were gone. Russ and I had gone over to Maine because I had to get away because there were so many kids. So every so often we'd go to Maine. Well, Judge Wesley said it. She says, you go. And so went over, and Sunday morning before we came home, phone rang, and it was Kathy saying the barn had burned.
Whoa.
And if Stephen, he might have been in high school, but he would go out every week, and Saturday he'd go out with his father and start the engine. The old fire, it was an old gasoline engine. Now you thought, why are they starting that every week? Made an awful racket. So, but it's a darn good thing he knew how to do it, because he started it, he got the hoses going. And when Hubert Simons, the fire chief from St. J, come around the corner, he's, oh my God, that whole place is going. But when he got around, he saw the water hoses. He kept it under control until.
Boy.
So those hoses were your hoses, not the fire department?
Yeah, we had the fire department, I think was going to get a new engine, so we bought that from them, and the hoses I think we got from them. So we had everything.
You had your pond.
Yeah, that's when they put those 3 ponds in, and was one of them, the back one by the house, was for that protection. And there again, my uncle,
Carl.
yeah,
Huh?
he thought of these things, He didn't work hard, but he kept things going. Yeah.
I was going to say, it sounds like he was very important from
He
time to
he
time.
was.
Right.
Yeah. We had we churned butter too, and we sold that. It was a churning room off the kitchen, and now we made it into a apartment.
Right.
So yeah, they made butter and sold it. Mom, one year, well, more than 1 year, they had lumbered over on the Hovey place, we called it. That's over back, facing hers. And Mom would go over, she and Mrs. Hooley, who lived neighbor, they'd pick raspberries, and she'd take them down. That's how we kids got our shoes. She'd take them down and sell them on, I don't know, probably to the grocer, I'm not sure. But they sold potatoes to a lot of people in town, bushel at a time.
But the raspberries went into shoes.
Yep, and we had plenty to eat, too.
Thank you very much.